like, as I just continued to volunteer, I realized that, like, the difference is made by real people, like by just regular, quote, regular people, right? And that we all have the power to make change, whether we think it or not. I think that really has been ingrained in me over my time volunteering, especially with like United Way.
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. Coming up, a conversation with Cristina Loevano-Santos of Emerging Leaders 365, a United Way-sponsored group of young professionals who spend their time making a difference in our community. We will also hear about United Way's Our Neighbor Fund and spotlight a local volunteer opportunity. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. According to Giving USA, a Virginia-based publication that reports on charitable giving in the United States, young professionals cite volunteering for and donating money to organizations among their top ways of impacting their communities. Giving USA says that young professionals support organizations that create meaningful change. They also embrace diversity and expect authenticity. At United Way of King County, we've learned how young professionals give back via Emerging Leaders 365, a United Way-sponsored group of more than 10,000 young adults who are passionate about engaging in a year of impact to support their neighbors. Emerging Leaders commit to giving $1 a day, or $365 a year, then come together to roll up their sleeves at volunteer projects and connect with like-minded residents at issue-focused events. Emerging Leaders annually log 2,700 volunteer hours while serving at more than 100 events. They make blankets for local charities, take part in Day of Caring events, and support local small businesses. Their giving helps families receive culturally specific meals each week and households avoid eviction each year. And they stage fundraisers of their own that generate thousands of dollars to fight hunger and prevent homelessness. United Way is proud to offer Emerging Leaders 365 to young people passionate about making a difference through giving and volunteering. Through our events like the popular Happy Hour and Hellos, we help young professionals gather at events across town to learn of issues they care about while enjoying refreshments and making lasting connections. We see this as an investment in the giving landscape. According to U.S. Census and AmeriCorps data on volunteering and civic life in America, people ages 16 to 17 have the highest rate of volunteering among all age groups at 28%. We hope local teens who are passionate about volunteering may someday join Emerging Leaders and gather with like-minded professionals who share their passions about giving back and making a difference. Among those currently making an impact through Emerging Leaders is Cristina Loevano-Santos, the group's co-chair and a research scientist at an HIV lab. Through Emerging Leaders, Chris has taken part in volunteer efforts such as Seattle's Pea Patch Community Gardening Program, which promotes United Way's mission to fight food insecurity by donating thousands of pounds of organic produce to food banks across Seattle. United Way recently sat down with Cristina to learn more about the Emerging Leaders community. Here's what she had to say.
How I came to be part of United Way is I had a friend who was actually on the committee for the Emerging Leaders, and then I just decided to check it out, and I did lots of events in the 2 months before the COVID-19 pandemic, and then pretty much all the events shut down. And then after that, I just kept doing the virtual events, and then there was an opening for the committee, and at that point, I had seen that United Way was really authentic in the way that it had given back. Being a person that came from a low-income family, my family had relied on a lot of social services growing up, and I was very in tune to what United Way was doing. And my parents taught me to give back and to help others whenever necessary. If you can, you should be able to help. So that's why I wanted to be part of United Way. I wanted to be more involved in the community. So we are a group of young professionals that it's supposed to be between like the ages like in our 20s and 30s, but really it can be anyone who want to come together to make real authentic change in our community. We really try to embody United Way's mission, which is, to help students graduate, make sure families have a home, and that they are financially stable. So as United Way Emerging Leaders, we host a series of events that we think will help push this mission along forward. So we have like volunteer events where we collaborate with organizations that help people directly. And then we also have lots of fundraising events, networking events, speaker series, and we have our yearly fundraisers where we all come up with our own ideas where we can each raise money in our local communities.
And what emerging leaders events, can you make maybe a couple that really, really stand out to you and why?
One that I really remember was during my first couple of months when I first got involved with United Way. It was an event that anyone could sign up for, and it was helping in a men's homeless shelter. And what we had to do was just chop up vegetables because we were helping prepare their lunch. So it was like, so I went in there and it was like 5 other people and we were each assigned a task. And I remember I had to cut a lot of potatoes. Some of us cut carrots, some of us cut onions. But I had a really good conversation with all the people that were there because we were there trying to help the staff that were there. And it was just like a really good time. But then after we got everything made and the staff put the trays away because that was for lunch, we were also there to help serve breakfast to the people, to the patrons of the place, of the shelter. And so it was just really nice to meet all these people in the community that I think I otherwise wouldn't have had contact with because I wouldn't know who they are or where they were. And I don't remember specifics, but I remember them telling me about their lives and them being very happy and upbeat and very optimistic. Because I think a lot of people would look at them in their situation and be like, oh, they must be sad or miserable of what's going on. But it was the opposite. They were very grateful people. And it was just really, really nice to talk to them. And after we served them breakfast, we also, what was left over, the staff said, yeah, if you guys want a bite, you guys can have some. So we did because it was really early in the morning. And then we went to go, I went to go sit with them. And it was just nice to sit with them and talk with them.
Great. It's interesting because you talk about from having the perspective of someone who has been in the shoes of perhaps some of the people that you have helped.
Yeah. I think I'm very empathetic in that way. I myself have never been homeless or been in certain situations. I'd also say my family is very lucky. My dad was able to support like a big family of 7 on one salary. Even though his income was small, now that I'm older and like look back on what his actual income was, it was a very small income, but he made it work. My mom, she was very resourceful. She did all the programs like WIC, the EBT cards. We had Apple Healthcare. She just went out and found all of these things, and we were able to live a good childhood because we had everything that we needed. And so when I like look at people who don't have the things that they need, I can relate because that could have easily been my family. Right. There's nothing that says like my family did it because of this. No, it was just circumstances. My mom did what she needed to do and she found it. But some people do what they need to do and they aren't as lucky and they just don't. And it seems like they never have any luck and things just don't go their way. So yeah, I think in some ways I am like from that side, but I know in a lot of ways, the people that we try to help have gone through things that I can't like personally connect to. And I always try to relate, but also recognize that I'm not actually from there. It's like a not sensitive subject, but it's just a different world that I try to keep in mind that like I'm helping, but they are still going through their own unique experiences.
And yet there are, I'm sure, some people in emerging leaders who really don't know personally what it's like to come up from a low-income family. Not much less experience homelessness, but just what it means to come up working class in this city. How do y'all come together and put, and despite your differences, whether they're class, whether they're gender, whether they're race, color, religion, how do y'all come together as a group of young professionals and make this work?
It's a really good question. I think in some ways I have thought of that, like how we can all come together despite our differences. And I think the really good thing about Emerging Leaders is that it attracts people who recognize there are differences, but those don't essentially matter. Like Emerging Leaders seems to attract people from all different backgrounds. Like if you were to talk to anybody on our committee, we're all from everywhere. There's maybe 3 of us that are actually like born and raised in Seattle, and then there are some that moved here 2 years ago. There are some that moved here from like there was a committee member a couple of years ago. I think he moved from Kansas and he had like a farm, and like he's so very different than like how I grew up, right? But the thing that we all have in common is that we all want to help. We recognize that there are disparities out there and that they're real. And I think that's the biggest thing. But when it does come to differences, I would say we have very good open communication. Me and then Taylor Robeson's, who is our United Way connection for Emerging Leaders. She is very honest and open about the things and the people that we're dealing with. And I am the same way. And my co-chair, Maurice, is the same way too. So I think what we bring to Emerging Leaders is just honesty, and I would say just being real with people. And, if something that is said is out of touch or just not, I think that's just the word, just out of touch, then we just call it out, because I think that's the only way how we can come together. And I try to do it in a way that it doesn't make someone feel bad because they don't quite know why they said was like incorrect. And so I think that's the way, like, for us to come together. It's just being honest with each other.
That's great. And thank you for delivering that side of this work. In addition to the work that you do with Emerging Leaders, what other types of volunteer work do you do?
Currently, it is primarily just United Way. Before I got involved with United Way, I was doing a lot of tutoring. So, like back when I used to go to church, I was doing like Vacation Bible School. So I would volunteer during the summers, and I would help kids with games. And then during my college years, I was also a tutor for a little bit in an adult math class. So I would try to help Latino immigrants who didn't speak all that much English, try to help them learn math. That one I don't think went as well as I would have thought, because I'm not really a teacher, and like math is in Spanish, it's even harder for me. So I just wanted to get involved, and I think that one I should have done something that was a little more in tune to my skills. I've been a tutor for Neighborhood House in Auburn. I was like an after school helper, tutor, helping with kids. And then when I got with United Way, then it was just, I really liked everything that they were doing, and there was a big variety of things. So I was helping in different like little organizations. The thing that I've done most currently is there is a free clinic that's called the Seattle King County Clinic, and it is a free 4-day event that's completely run by volunteers, and it provides free medical, vision, and dental care for anybody that needs it, regardless of like documentation status, what language you speak, if you have insurance or not. Like, people come from other states just to come get healthcare with the clinic. Yeah, it's really cool. I really like it. And so what I did specifically was I was a Spanish interpreter. I know some medical terminology. So I did that last year, and then I did that this year, and then I'll do it again next year.
Oh, cool.
So just a couple more questions. In light of that, when you look at all the work that you've done, really to help people, and before you started it and now, if you had to say, before I started this, I didn't know, like, what would that be?
I think before I started, I didn't know that I could make an impact, or that what I was doing was impactful, because I think I was under the impression that, I'm not like from a wealthy background. I don't, like, at the time I wasn't very outgoing, so I was like kind of shy and like timid to myself when I was doing volunteer events. So I really had to like break out of my bubble for a lot of things. So it was like I didn't know that I could do all these things, because in my mind I was like, I'm an ordinary person, I'm just a regular person. What difference am I really making? Like, I'm not part of some big, huge organization that's known worldwide. And so I think as I just continued to volunteer, I realized that like the difference is made by real people, like by just regular, quote, regular people, right? And that we all have the power to make change, whether we think it or not. I think that really has been ingrained in me over my time volunteering, especially with like United Way, especially with like here, because I'm still just a regular person. I don't think there's ever going to be a time when I'm not a regular person, but I know from like talking to people, they're like, oh, you do all these things. And I was like, I don't think I really do that much. Like, I'm just doing what I can. And I think if everybody did what they can, even if they think it's a little bit, like the change is going to be so huge. I was like, if people thought I was making a change by like volunteering like once a week for 3 hours, like, can you imagine if everyone did that even like once a month for 3 hours? So I think before that, I didn't really grasp the impact, like the collective impact that we could all have if we just did a little bit. And so I think now that's one of the big things that I talk about when I volunteer with United Way, or when I talk about like what I want to do in the future. I'm like, if I can do this, like literally anybody can. And so I think that's what I would say.
And then lastly, what do you want to do in the future?
What do I want to do? I want to be a medical physician, because I think that is how my specific skills and what I'm really good at will be. That's how I'll be able to make the most amount of meaningful change. So like with my family, we have a history of a lot of medical issues that include like cardiac issues, diabetes, like all these kinds of things. Thyroid issues, like I have thyroid issues. So like medical care is very important to me. And I've just realized that being a medical doctor is my way of giving back to the community. I really like to, trying to find the right words for it. Like when people go to the doctor, or where they're unsure of what their like symptoms are or anything, that is at a moment where they are very scared, where they're very vulnerable, where they're looking for guidance and people to help them, like tell them it's going to be okay and everything. And I'm someone that likes to come with lots of information, likes to come with honesty, likes to come with like hoping that people trust me. And so I want to lead people to a place where they are at their best. They're like, their well-being is at their best, and then they continue to do good things in the world after that. So I want to work with underserved communities. I really want to get better at my medical terminology in Spanish so I can help, my own Latina community, but also all communities that are underserved. I'm interested in like global health, community health. Yeah, those are like the kind of things that I'm interested in and that I think I'll be able to make a real change.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christina, for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you.
For more information about Emerging Leaders 365, log on to uwkc.org/emerging-leaders-365. United Way of King County recently launched the Our Neighbor Fund, a $12.5 million campaign to invest in strategies that keep families fed and housed and help college students stay in school. Our Neighbor Fund will enable us to provide students with free meals when school is out, leverage millions of dollars in rental assistance funding, provide students with emergency grants and housing assistance, and much more. Please help join the movement to make a difference in the lives of our neighbors. To give, log on to uwkc.org/donate. Looking for a volunteer opportunity? There are plenty of opportunities at Food Lifeline, the Seattle-based organization that is on a mission to end hunger in Western Washington. You can volunteer in Food Lifeline's warehouse. The organization relies on hundreds of business and corporate groups to sort and repack millions of pounds of food each year. Seattle volunteer sessions take place Monday through Saturday at the Hunger Solutions Center and are open to groups, families, and individuals. You'll sort bulk donations and repack source grocery items into family-sized portions so Food Lifeline can send them to local food banks, shelters, and meal programs. For more information, log on to foodlifeline.org/volunteer. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by the generous donations from people like you. Please send comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglassunitedway@gmail.com. To learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.